What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Marvin Melendez. You're listening to another episode of All My Friends Talk podcast, where I talk to all my creative artists, advocates, and just around amazing friends. Guys, I am so honored to have this guest on my podcast today. They are more than qualified to talk about everything that we are about to talk about. If I were to run down a list of credentials they have, man, that would be a whole episode that in of itself. So I have Dr. Bertrhude Albert and Dr. Priscilla Zelaya from P4H Global. What's up, guys? How are y'all?
Hello.
Yo.
Hello, world. How are you?
So what's funny with you guys is, it's crazy because I feel like everybody who I've had on here, every guest I've had on has been flat out amazing, no doubt about it. But with you guys, it's like some have been friends, some I met just doing the podcast. With you, I've known you guys for a very long time. We go back, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how, like, there's certain people that that you meet. Like, if you're in the music world, a couple musicians, you're like, oh yeah, I know them. It's no big deal, So for you two, I have your numbers on my phone, and we stay in touch for all these years. I'm like, yo, like, I know them. Like, those are my friends. Like, there's no friends I have that I hold. Like, you guys, to me, I hold in such high esteem, and I'm so honored just to even be your friend. So even more honored that you guys will grace your presence on this podcast. So
it is our honor. It is our honor, Marvin.
And I'll piggyback on that and say, man, what's really cool about you, Marvin, is that you've got specific passion projects. And you just come through with your passion projects. You're not a guy that just talks about it.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot that you talk about, but you choose where you're going to go and the things that you're going to do with excellence. So
follow through.
Yeah. So it's really cool to be here with you, Marvin. We love you a lot.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that's encouraging because there's like several years, I'd say up until I moved to Orlando, where like my rep was like, Bar doesn't follow through with anything, So the fact that I've grown out of that and you guys have seen that, man, that means the world to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's talk real quick. You guys have a nonprofit organization that you guys started back in the day, back in college.
Yeah, 2011.
Hey, wow, we're coming up on 10 years pretty soon.
That's exactly right. Next year is going to be our 10-year anniversary. We are in shock.
And what do they say? Like 90% of nonprofits, they stop after year 4 or 5. So we're honestly like, Lord, this clearly has to be you, because Chris and I did everything wrong. We did everything wrong. We could talk about like even the beginning of P4H. And still, despite our weaknesses, despite our failures, God's faithfulness really shines through. And so we're really excited for the 10-year anniversary, because we know it's not by our strength, but by God's.
It's a celebration of God's grace.
So let's talk about this, right? P4H, what is P4H? What do you guys do? Like, break it down for me.
Yes, so P4H Global is a nonprofit organization that is focused on redefining aid. Our vision is to redefine the way people see and do aid. And we believe
What's aid?
Oh, what is aid? Great. Aid is charity. It's help. It's how you help and empower communities. So there's a lot of different ways that people believe that you can help a community. We believe that there is a way that you can help within communities that empowers communities. And there's a way that you could do aid that disempowers communities. And so our desire is to walk strongly and empower others to help communities in a way that empowers.
And we really got started with this idea of redefining aid because we started off in Haiti when we were undergrads. So we were like, let's go to Haiti and help them. We'll do this by collecting over 400 pounds of clothes and food and shoes for the Haitian people. We ended up passing it out for like a week. And after a week of passing it out and really feeling great about the work that we were doing, we sat down with the community leaders and we're like, did we just change your world or what? Did we just like completely rock your socks? And their response to us was so like pivotal and so earth shattering for us. They told us, Bertrhude, Priscilla, thank you for recruiting an incredible group of volunteers. Thank you for giving us your heart, but you actually heard us. You didn't help the community as much as you thought you did. And we ended up learning and finding that because of our charity, because of our good intentions, because of the 400 pounds of clothes and food and shoes we passed out to the communities, we put local businessmen out of business. Women that would sell shirts and clothes for the week, they wouldn't be able to sell for the upcoming weeks because of our good work. Men that would have children and that would sell clothes and shoes, them as well, they wouldn't be able to sell for the upcoming weeks. And as we're sitting with the community leaders and we're saying, wow, we see what you're talking about. They say it's insanity, America. They just keep coming over and over with the same things, and they don't see that it's not changing anything. And so as we were sitting with them, we said, wow, our story is not unique. We were hurting instead of helping. So how is it that we can really redefine what we're doing and change the way not only we're doing aid, but the rest of the world does aid? And the Haitian people, they gave us the key for Haiti, and they told us that education ends poverty.
Yeah, we ended up sitting down with community leaders after that initial really bad interaction where we thought we were doing good, but it ended up not being good. We sat down with the community leaders, and they were like, education is the way that we really want to move this country forward, our communities forward. And we were like, that's perfect, because we are passionate about education. If this is the way that you feel like you can be empowered and really help your community, that's what we want to do. And so we now, as an organization, we do teacher training within the country of Haiti. And we also do impact trips where we're bringing people to Haiti, to Nicaragua as well, to learn about how to partner with communities and not just do for communities things that they can do for themselves, but how can you empower communities? So as an organization, that's what we do.
So, okay, let's talk about this, because you mentioned that, and I was with you guys on a trip where you guys brought clothes. Like, I remember me and my mom went with you and a group of people. One of the most life-changing memories of my life, to this day, I talk about that as if it was yesterday, right? Like, so Haiti will always have a very special place in my heart because of you guys. But I think had it not been for you and for other organizations like Greenhouse Church down in Gainesville, Florida, who they have a very similar focus of like not just I don't know if handouts is the right word in this case, but but this is how churches and not even just churches, but nonprofits and people who want to do charity, they've been doing this like this for years upon years, right? This isn't, and I mean, I've been reading books on this sustainable giving, for the last 10 years. And I'm still to this day finding people like, yeah, we're passing out backpacks to the homeless. And I'm like, cool. Like, but are you sending them up with jobs? Like, no, but we're giving the food for them. I was like, all right, okay. But things aren't, what you're saying is a very common thing. Why is it that not many people gravitate towards what is it you guys are doing?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Marvin, you're coming with the heat.
Yo,
I love it. I think that there are two big things going on. We are creatures of habit, and so just historically, we have seen that in America and around the world, we really value like sexy charity, which is charity where you can see yourself giving something, or when there's somebody hungry and then you go ahead and you fix it immediately, or it could be seen as like a drive-by charity. Before I see this, and now because of my work, I see this. There was no well, but now I created a well. Mind you, there are over $300 million worth of wells in Africa that are not working because charities that have come in and built things, and they didn't train anybody on how to work the well. They didn't consult with the community as to what was needed, but we're doing the same thing over and over, just building, because we want that gratification. We want to see, wow, there was not this, and now because of me, I did this. When you look at what we're doing, teacher training, it's something that's invisible, right? Like when we're going in training thousands of teachers, to date, we've trained over 6,000 teachers. We don't see an immediate gratification other than teachers like in tears and teachers saying, wow, I had a fifth grade level of education, and now I feel equipped to stand in front of my classroom. Like, those are the types of things that we see face to face, but other than that, it's relatively invisible, the impact. However, it's so interesting. The invisible work that we're doing, that is what's going to have a lasting impact on generations to come. Right. When you look at Haiti, 80% of teachers in Haiti, 8 out of 10, they are not trained, they are not qualified. 25% of teachers haven't even gone past high school. You look even deeper at Haiti's educational system, and 6 out of 10 Haitian students will drop out before elementary school. That's 60% of students will drop out before elementary school. And all the while, we have the international world just flooding the country with clothes and food and shoes. And the Haitian people are saying, that is not our problem. Our problem isn't clothes and food and shoes. Our problem is that we want to be taught how to create our own clothes, food, and shoes. We want to have the agency and the independence so that in 10 years, we're not having the same missionaries doing the same thing, building the same buildings. Help increase our capacity, right, our knowledge, our skills, our ability, so that in 10 years, it's not the same type of giving.
Yeah. I would add too, I think that most people within the population don't really have an understanding of what sustainability looks like within development. So I think honestly, there's a huge lack of understanding and a lack of education when it comes to international development that causes people to think that, well, okay, if I give these clothes, then I'm solving the big problem that's happening, or I'm creating lasting change by giving a pair of shoes, which is nice, especially like if you're looking at a disaster problem where like there's an earthquake, there's a hurricane, what happened in Lebanon, which was terrible. I mean, those are situations that need relief, that need the clothes, that need the food, those kinds of things that help solve the short-term problems, because those are short-term things where it's like, if they don't have food right now, then that's going to be terrible because they could lose their life. There could be a child that loses their life. So those are the short-term things. But then when you're looking for long-term, I think that there's not necessarily an understanding of what long-term help looks like. So with what Bertrhude was describing as the problem of in Haiti in education, 80% of teachers not being adequately trained, you can already see how that can impact a child's education level and what they're learning in school. But giving them a backpack or giving them shoes is not necessarily going to solve the bigger problem, which is their teacher doesn't know how to teach. So if they're sitting in class with nice uniform and a nice backpack, but their teacher doesn't know how to teach them, what are they doing in the class? They just look fly, which is nice, but they're not learning.
Even if it looks nice on the outside, it's detrimental, because in Haiti, like, there's just a system of people continuing to give. And what does that do for a child's self-esteem? Where it's like, I'm continuously given something. In Haiti, we have something called l'engagement, which is the extending of the arm. And our partners in Haiti have said, man, we feel as if our culture, our people, over and over, we're taught to extend the hand, And you know what? People might feel like that is nice and they might feel good about it, but that is hurting us. It's more than just the immediate thing that's happening. What happens is immediate needs for relief stage. Yes, we have those needs, but the minute we continue to extend that past the relief stage, at that point, it's grossly inappropriate, and it creates deep cycles of dependence, and it rips at the dignity of the people we're trying to help.
So you guys have touched on something a couple of times on relief, right? Like disaster relief. I remember, and Bertrhude, I don't know if you remember this conversation. I called you right after Puerto Rico got hit by Hurricane Maria, and I was devastated, and I was crying for days, and I just didn't know what to do, right? And I called you because I was like, well, I don't want to create a pro, like, I don't want to just create this handout. Like, I didn't know if I should just give to any charities. Like, okay, here's immediate, like, let's go right now. Should I wait a little longer? Me and my wife, eventually, when we got married, you know, a little less than a year later, we took our honeymoon to Puerto Rico, because we're like, okay, here's something we can do right here. We can just go shop in the local markets. We went to a local hotel, like, that wasn't owned by like a major chain, you know, and I mean, it was one of the best vacations of my life. But also, I remember I was intentional. Every Uber driver, every shop owner, I would ask them, like, hey, who supported you? Who was here for you during the hurricane? Where should I give my money back to? They all said nobody was there, at like 100%. Like, so I'm hearing all these news circles of the Red Cross and all these people, but they're all telling me the same thing. No one's there except one person, one shop owner. I said, hey, where should I give my money to? She goes, don't give it to anybody. I was like, what about FEMA? What about Red Cross? She's like, I didn't hear from anybody. You know who helped us? We helped ourselves. You know who was around for us? She's like, look, I'm atheist. I don't believe in religion, but churches were the only ones that were there for me. They're the only ones who were going to community, collecting items for people and distributing back out as we needed. Only ones who gave me food. They're the only ones around. To this day, no one has been able to tell me a charity that helps them. I got family there. Nobody's told me. But here you are. I mean, you mentioned Lebanon. You know, Haiti had a massive earthquake, you know, 10 years ago, and that was devastating, right? How do you give in a devastating situation and to relieve without hurting the long run?
That is so
Great
good.
question.
In regards to giving, I think that it's so devastating because disasters are an economy. Like, people become rich off of disasters.
They do.
All over Haiti, organizations have become rich because people feel bad for certain things that have happened in Haiti. So my first answer for you is, like, for me, even specifically in Puerto Rico, what I did is I just completely bypassed those organizations, and I actually messaged churches that were in Puerto Rico. Like, there's a Calvary church, I believe, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Yeah. I just went on the Google pages, on the Facebook pages, and I was just seeing people that were already active before and that were already doing work, whether somebody feels comfortable with a faith-based organization like a church or another type of organization. Finding out people who are already working before, that's your surest way to help out and to help in a way that it's going to be reaching the people. So I think I found like 3 churches, and I ended up supporting one of the churches that I had researched. But yeah, that's one of the ways that I do it.
Oh, 100%. And I think also just doing research, if you are going to donate to a nonprofit, is making sure to do research on their financials to really see, okay, how much of the money, how much of my dollar is going to administration versus an actual program, because that makes a difference too, knowing like, okay, if I give this money, which is hard-earned money, what impact is that going to actually make on the ground? And I think doing the research and really understanding is important.
I'll take it a step further. I would say perhaps even more important, that's important, but even more important would be having an organization where you're seeing if they're in the business of doing sustainable work. Because if they are year-round doing relief work, are you just making money off of tragedy? Like what how is their relief work connected to long-term development? Because I know, like, for example, us in Haiti, when there were disasters that happened, we knew that our community, we couldn't just stay within development work. Our community was quite literally dying, and we needed to step in. So we stepped into relief work only to step back out. But we knew our relief work was directly tied to our long-term vision, which is sustainable development. So doing research on the financials, but then also on the work that they do.
It's awesome. So let me ask you guys something. You guys are primarily working in Haiti. Is that correct? And then I know you also mentioned you're taking impact trips to Nicaragua, like super dope. One of these days, I vow to jump on one of those trips with you guys. I cannot wait. But something I've noticed that you guys have done I think part is due to recent times. I mean, you launched a masterclass, correct, on sustainable development. So you're training people here. You also, over the course, during Ahmaud Arbery, I believe it was like you guys would host as an organization conversations on like injustices here in the U.S. as well, right? Why did you guys? Do you feel like you deviated from your mission? Like, why did you start hosting conversations here when all your work has been focused, in Haiti and Nicaragua?
Oh my gosh, I love the question.
Yeah, I think that's an important question to ask too.
I love it because, Marvin, we've been asked that. We're like, okay, you guys are doing so much work in Haiti, and now all of a sudden there's such a strong fight for the lives of Black people here in America. Like, what is that all about? I will give like a summary, and then Chris, I know that you have a word or two to say about this. Essentially, what we are doing in Haiti is allyship. We are partnering with a vulnerable community, with a community that has been marginalized, a community that is going through a really difficult time, a community who has a voice but hasn't been given a megaphone for their voice. And so when we look at advocacy here in the United States, it's the same thing, advocating for an oppressed group or a marginalized group or a group who has a voice, but who too often the microphone has been stripped from them, and so their voice hasn't been able to amplify. And so that the synergies of really standing for marginalized people, that's the DNA of P4H. Not only that, but it's not just people, but it's Black people in Haiti, Black people here in the United States. So when we're fighting for the lives of Black people here in the United States, it needs to be able to, when we're fighting for it in Haiti, it needs to be able to transfer. If this is really our DNA, and we believe that Black lives, they do matter in Haiti, then they should matter here in the United States as well.
Yeah, I think because I love this question because it is one that we had to answer a lot. And I think the reason why is because the reality is, if you look at the history of Haiti, I mean, Haiti is the first free Black republic in the world. Like, literally, they are a country that fought for their freedom. They were a country that got their independence from slavery.
The only successful slave revolt in the history of the humanity, okay? The only successful slave revolt that led to the creation of a nation in the history of humanity. Amen.
Amen. It is. It's amazing. And I think you look at what happened from that point in their history to even now, present day. Unfortunately, when people looked at Haiti immediately after they got their independence, they were blacklisted. Like, literally, they were cast aside. They weren't allowed to trade with anyone next to them. People, even the country of America, was scared of Haiti because they were like, the United States still had slavery at the time, so they were a threat. They were a threat. Haiti was a threat. So
a lot of people don't even know Haiti. In order for Haiti to gain its independence from France, they fought. They won the war, and France said, "You know what? We're not going to recognize you, and you guys can't trade." A country that doesn't trade, they're not able to build up their economy. And so France was finally like, okay, if you want to be recognized by the rest of the world, you pay us 90 million francs, which is the equivalent of like billions of US dollars today. Haiti didn't finish paying off that fee for their independence until 1947. And so imagine a country that's paying off for their own life. This is a suppression like never before. And there's so many, this is not a history lesson, so we can't really go into it, but there's so many things that really have oppressed the Haitian people that have made it so that the situation Haiti's in right now, it's
difficult. And if you look at present day charity work and the things that people are doing in Haiti, a lot of times it's under this assumption that because they look different, because they are Black, that they don't have the same potential, that they don't have the same abilities. And so a lot of programs are going on in Haiti that really don't dignify the Haitian people. And so we as an organization really believe that programs need to uplift and dignify the Haitian people, and they already have dignity inherent within them. So we're just giving them a voice to speak, to talk on their own behalf.
Yeah, and so I'll go back to even our mission. Sorry, we're so excited. We love this question. We could spend a whole year on this question. Redefining aid. That's what it's about, right? It's about not only doing teacher training, because we were like, you know what, let's do teacher training. We believe that we can really see an end to economic poverty in Haiti if we transform Haiti's educational system, which is what we're doing. But our vision isn't transform Haiti's educational system. Our vision is to redefine aid. Why? Because as we're transforming Haiti's educational system, we're talking about it and we're debunking the myths that people have about the Haitian people and about vulnerable people group. And we are all about, like, our shirts that say circumstances don't determine potential, or another shirt we have that says dignity, development begins with dignity. We're doing basically what people are trying to do all over America. We are redefining how people see and interact with vulnerable people groups.
And I mean, we work with Black and brown people. Like, that is literally who we are working with. And so we believe in the inherent dignity of every single human being. They were created in the image of God.
Hallelujah!
We talk about that nonstop on our trips. We make sure that when people come to Haiti, they're not just seeing like, oh my goodness, this is someone that I have to help. Let me take a picture with this Black baby and let me show people all the good that I'm doing. We really talk about, like, no, this is what partnership looks like. This is a human being who has potential and has dignity and has talents and gifts that they can transform their community
Hallelujah!
with, which is the same message that we're trying to get across here in the United States. It's all connected, because if people in America are looking at Black and brown people in a negative light, what do you think they're going to do when they go to Haiti? It's the same thing. So we're trying, honestly, to be like almost like, we know that if Black and brown people are dignified here in America, they will be dignified all over the world.
It's awesome. I got one more question for you guys. You guys have been at this for almost 10 years now. So, and you're super passionate, and almost to the point where I feel like you guys would go to war for your beliefs, right? Like, you got no shame about that. But and as I said in the opening, like, your credentials, I mean, I can't, you have Hall of Fame, 40 under 40, I believe you guys got a couple times, hey, you guys have a lot of recognition for your work, but what results have you seen to back up what you're saying?
That's great. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Amen to this question. There's so much. Sorry, I put it all on me. I'm like, okay, so sorry, it's both of us. We speak together. There's so much. Okay, if we're looking specifically at teacher training, and we're looking at the transformation of Haiti's educational system, we have some outputs that we look at. We're like, okay, right now, physically, we are in 10 of Haiti's 10 departments. So geographically, our staff has grown to being all over the entire nation of Haiti. Not only that,
also to clarify, we have 21 staff members, full-time staff members in Haiti.
Yeah, so we've got 21 full-time staff members going throughout the nation working. And that in and of itself, it just shows reach, but it doesn't show the depth. When we look at the depth, one of the biggest stats that we look at is, before we do a training, we give a pre-test to measure the knowledge of the teachers on these very basic student-centered strategies that we're giving them. The average pre-test score is a 42%. After our intervention, after the training, we give our teachers the same exact test, and the average post-test score is a 92%. So that in and of itself already begins to show us that our teachers, they are growing tremendously. I'm so excited. Tremendously on the knowledge that we're giving them during the training. But it doesn't end there. We're not like, okay, yeah, knowledge gain. Knowledge, sometimes you can have knowledge and it doesn't impact your practice. So let's take it a step further. After our training, every single teacher, we go back inside of the classrooms and we do classroom observations and coaching for them. When we do classroom observations for them, we compare the baseline data because we do observations for them before our interventions and then a month after the interventions. And we see that 95% of our teachers are increasing in their pre-observation score versus their post-observation score. In fact, 80% of our teachers are experimenting with the student-centered strategies that we are giving them. So that means that they're directly using the strategies for their classrooms, 80% of them inside of the classrooms when we come and do the observations. And so there are some other geeky indicators that we observe that really get us so excited, but we're all in the business of radically transforming Haiti's educational system, and we're not going to stop until it happens.
Yeah, and also when you look at what has been happening with our impact trips and masterclass, our desire is to train people to transform nations. Like, we want to prepare people to either understand how to give more effectively, or how to do programs, or how to change the world. And so through our impact trips, we've been able to see people really gain a clear vision for their future. People gain a clear vision for how they can help in the communities that they're passionate about, whether it's homelessness here in America, whether it's people that are working within the education system here in America, but seeing people actually apply sustainable development practices within whatever job that they're doing, because that radically transforms how the country is. It creates world change. Yeah. So we're seeing that within our impact trips, within masterclass, which is also exciting.
Definitely. And then the last thing else, the masterclass pre-test and post-test.
Yes, pre-test, post-test score for the masterclass, 43% pre-test. Post-test score within the masterclass is 98.9%.
Wow.
What we're seeing is that people that come inside of the masterclass, we test them on specific knowledge, or like sustainable development after our 10 years of working in Haiti, and then also our degrees looking at development. These are things that you should probably know. And individuals that are coming in, they don't know this information, but then when they're leaving, they're able to recite this information, which again, that knowledge doesn't mean behavior change. However, it's the first step towards behavior change. And so we're super, super excited. And the last thing I'll say with this is, like, we know that even with these indicators that we're observing, which there are a lot. I mean, P4H, we've got like 5 PhDs on the team, so we're all like numbers, quantitative numbers. But some things that really gas us up and really make us feel like, wow, something is happening, are like the government of Haiti reaching out and asking us to do training. So now we're training for the government schools in the North Department. The Minister of Education, which is the highest education officer for Haiti, reaching out to us, having us come in and saying that, hey, we need to have this program across the entire nation. So they're just different key individuals. Right now, okay, this is going to be launched late September, so I could share this. Right now, we're even working with the Digicel Foundation, reaching out to us saying like, hey, we have a huge education branch. We want to outsource it out to P4H, have you guys be the umbrella so that you guys are basically taking over the education branch and increasing your impact throughout the nation. When we have these organizations that have been in existence way longer than us validating the work, it's like, wow, something big is happening.
Awesome. Guys, seriously, you two are two of my greatest heroes. Like, when I look at like some of the heroes of my life, man, like, you guys, you're up there. You know, I'm so honored that we're friends. I'm so honored that I know you. And I'm so honored that you guys are on this podcast. This has meant the world to me. And yeah, I hope for all my listeners out there, man, like, I hope that you get half as much of an impact as I'm getting just talking to you guys now.
Wow.
So real quick, if you guys can do me a favor before I let you guys go, can you guys, if people want to get in touch with you guys, get to know more about P4H, where can they, how can they reach out to you guys?
Yes. Follow us on social media at P4H Global on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. And then if you want to email us at general@p4hglobal.org.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. For all my listeners out there, if you guys want to hear more or have any questions, drop a comment down below. Please subscribe or download the podcast wherever you guys are listening to and share it with your friends. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.